Hi, welcome to Writer's Therapy. We should make it clear, neither of us are therapists. This is kind of like our group therapy. You, me, and listener, who has yet to meaningfully contribute to the discussion.
I like that listener gets a mention because we only have the one. And no matter how many downloads we get, I'm going to be convinced it's the same person just trying to promote us.
Yes.
Just listener making it their full-time job.
Our one listener who is obsessed.
Obsessed.
All right, so we should probably do our hi, Marty.
Hello, Kate.
How are you doing?
I am good.
This is my Halloween witchy voice.
You should only speak in this voice.
This is my default.
Well, so is this for me. Hello, Kate. Mine in my mind is like Hannibal Lecter saying hello to Clarice. Which obviously I've totally nailed. Because it was in your mind too, right?
No.
You were like, oh man, that's a dead-on Hannibal Lecter.
I thought you were like doing a pirate impression.
Oh, that's so close.
Not what you were.
So the same thing.
Yeah, very, just about the same thing.
Yeah. Hello, Kate. I didn't hear it. It's so funny. How are you doing?
Doing good. I'm really, I've been at like a kind of stuck place with my writing for a while. And, at the beginning of the year, I started a bunch of projects and I got, halfway to nearly the end for a lot of them. And then I just put them all down. And I recently picked one of them back up and I realized the reason I had put it down was it was at a sex scene and it was like the pivotal climax of the book. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to power through this and I'm going to make it work. And I got through it.
Hey, congratulations!
Now just a couple chapters till it's done.
In Just Fake Married, I totally put a pin in that scene for my editing self to deal with later. Because mine is also, a pivotal sex scene and all the emotions come to a head and this.
Oh, yeah.
And I just don't have it in me. At the time, I didn't have it in me to do. And I'm really hoping that when I have my editing hat on and all of that, I will be able to. It's always really interesting to me, the authors that love writing those sex scenes. Because I just do not relate. At all. And it's just such a different relationship with those scenes than I have.
Yeah, it's I feel like some stories I'm definitely just writing the rest of the story just because I want to get to these scenes. And then some stories it's like, oh god, I gotta add some steam. I gotta shove it in here.
Man. That did not sound like it was an okay decision. Is your story okay?
They're just sometimes it's I'm just dragging my feet, but I understand. No. Just gotta shove it in here is not sexy. It
doesn't sound.
It doesn't sound like there's a lot of foreplay.
Yeah. You should pay a little more attention before you just go doing that.
You should lube up.
So I had mentioned before, in my preferred writing experience, it would be euphemistic sex scenes. That's a much more ideal writing experience for me. Writing all of the staging and the emotions and having it all be hot on top of it, right? It's just, I like to feel that I accomplish it, but it is not easily done. There's always a logistics read through of okay, are all of the pieces making sense and lining up of all of the moving parts, and then
no one has three hands.
Yeah, exactly. And then also making sure that there are emotional beats there as well as the physical beats. Making sure that it all will read in a pleasing way. It's just, there's a lot of balls in the air and it's also you mess this up, it's a big mess up, there's just more pressure on those scenes.
Well, so I think you've kind of hit a number of things that are, you know, the quintessential checklists that you need to think about when you're building a sex scene.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there you said it all. Like, there's physical beats, there's emotional beats, and then there's just logistics of it.
And then that it's like a reading experience too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're not being bogged down by too much information to not have your own experience with reading it.
God, I've read sex scenes that have like literally been one paragraph, and like it's like you blink and you miss it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Then there are other ones that are like just pages and pages, and you feel like you're not getting anything out of it.
There's also people that do it really well. Like,
oh yeah,
I recently discovered this year Roxy Noir, and her for one thing, her stories and characterizations are fantastic. The woman's a really good writer. Her sex scenes, like, good job, lady. Like, way to go. That was a great example. Like, very good. Gold star. And that's that cute book I kept on sending you all the screenshots too of like their conversations and stuff. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Really cute banter.
Yes, you have got to read those. They're so good. I've only read the first two because I paused to, like, you know, be like, okay, I have to read outside of this series for a little bit. It's the Loveless Brothers series.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. It's so good.
So I want to speculate on physical beats. Like, what does that mean to you? Like, just going through it. What
are the beats?
Yeah, so like when I approach it, I try to think of it as like, how does it go when I actually, you know, have sex with someone? Like, what things need to happen to lead up to, like, you don't just dive into it, you know?
Exactly. You don't just shove it in there.
You don't. You really shouldn't.
Is that the name of our episode? You don't just shove it in there.
That's the name of our new podcast.
We don't like it either.
We need a new logo.
Don't just shove it in there. We don't like it either.
Oh yeah. So so I think there's that moment that it occurs to the character, oh, this is gonna happen.
This is happening. Yep, I was gonna say. There's the tension leading up to that.
Yeah, and like the moment the feeling in the room changes from whatever vibe it was beforehand to it's going down.
Yeah. We're going to
You're going down. Woo-woo, get on the train.
Choo-choo. Come on, ride a train. Again.
Okay.
Are we going to get sued by so many musicians?
We need to stop.
I'm the worst. God.
We get sued, the podcast.
The podcast. This is a formal apology?
Just a blanket formal apology.
Yeah, exactly. That's the new name. This is a formal apology.
Oh boy.
Okay, so yes, I agree. There's the tension, and then there's like the moment where it's like, oh, okay. There's also because that's kind of more of like a spontaneous, like, oh, okay, we're doing this. Awesome. Or there's also like all of the stars that I have set out have now aligned.
Yes.
And now all my work is going into volition. So like that can be like the same moment.
Like there's
the character.
Enough sexual tension to tip the scale. You
know?
Like I feel like you can have other scenes where it's building up, but it's not enough for them to bang right there.
Uh-huh.
But this is the moment where the factors are all right, and depending on the characters, it doesn't matter where they are. No.
I mean, that's true. But yeah, so there's that. And then, I don't know, because it's harder to be specific about the physical beats after that necessarily.
Well, so I think you do want to decide what acts you want to go into the scene, you know,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And you have to kind of plan how they go from one to the next.
And then also, like you've said before, like, okay, so if you're having multiple sex scenes in a book, how is this one going to be different than the next one?
And that ties into emotional beats.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So like you were saying, like you had this pivotal sex scene that you got stuck on and you left the story. And then I have one that I just like, okay, put a pin in it. Someone else will deal with it later.
Someone else.
Someone else's future me. So, depending on where you're at in the story, those emotional beats can change, and also they might be influenced by the physical beats going in, right?
Oh yeah,
like depending on the character's backstory and stuff like that. Absolutely.
Yeah, then that's its own emotional beat, but it's also going to change how the physical beats go, because then I think there's going to be a lot more focus on the foreplay, and maybe it's probably going to be a little more vanilla than other sex scenes. You know, you don't dive all in.
I'm thinking of Hot and Hammered, the series by Tessa Dare, right?
What?
What? Oh, not Tessa Dare. I'm sorry, Tessa Bailey. Oh, you poor thing. You're like, I have a backlist of Tessa Dare. I haven't read.
I had like a whole little conniption. I was like, what? Why haven't I seen any of this? My sister literally came to me today. She's like, what Tessa books have you not read? And I was like, you're going to have to just look at my bookshelf and determine what's not there, because I don't know. I think I have most of her books. And then so I'm like, when?
How do you know about this and I do not?
Tessa Bailey. Okay, I haven't read much of her stuff.
Okay, well, another woman that clearly takes joy in writing her sex scenes. Like, yes. Girl brings some steam. And the talking in it is like, wow. In the first in the Hot and Hammered series, I want to say it was called Fix Her Up.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yes, she does have a virgin trope, and that played out differently than other times I've seen that trope used.
I don't read a lot of contemporary virgin tropes. Like, most of the time when I see it, it's in a historical.
Yeah, I usually don't read a lot either, and I was surprised when it was there. It's not like she hides it from the reader by any means, but it wasn't like on the, it wasn't like in the synopsis to my memory or anything like that. Mm. Also, she is a virgin, but she's not unknowledgeable. Does that make sense? Like, yeah. To me, that made a difference in my involvement in the story. I always have a hard time with contemporary if the heroine doesn't have knowledge, or if mostly it's the heroine that doesn't have knowledge. It's very rarely like the hero that is a virgin. But if they don't have knowledge, then I start being like weird about like their level of like consent, essentially. Like, why don't they have knowledge? Can they be comfortable making the decisions that they're making right now? And not to say that like virgins can't, but like that's one of the reasons why it worked for me in this book by Tessa Bailey, is that she was a very like worldly person. She just,
just maybe didn't get the opportunity.
Yeah, it was like kind of like one of those where like, oh, thanks, cat. If you hear my cat playing with pencil on the table,
that's what that is.
Yep, that's what that is. But yes, that's why it worked for me in this story, was like she wasn't ignorant to like sexual acts. She just happened to have not had sex yet.
Yeah, I think that'd be a very weird character to have in a contemporary. Someone who's just completely oblivious to... Yeah. It's very... You know that trope? There's a really great video essay on it. It's called Born Sexy Yesterday.
No, I don't.
Okay, well, I will send you the link. Okay. Basically, it's a trope that happens a lot in sci-fi, and it's based around women who are, for some, sci-fi reason, whether that she was literally created yesterday in the fully formed, adult woman body, or, she's been in a capsule or something for 19 years, so she's exactly 19, but she's never been conscious before this moment. But she's of legal age, so it's all right. But it's like, mentally, she's definitely a child. And so it's like, creates this position for male heroes to, have this perfect woman who's never had anyone before him, but she's still an adult, so she can consent, but like, she has to rely on him to show her the entire world of sensuality. And, she has to cling to him as her protector. weird how often it shows up in sci-fi. Like once you like watch this video,
yeah.
let's say, you'll see
now that
it
you're
everywhere.
saying that, like, I feel like I can totally identify that concept.
Like, okay, as much as I love The Fifth Element, you know, the
love that
Lilu
movie.
is like a prime example of Born Sexy Yesterday.
Man, my brain is like so trapped now.
Well, so the one thing I do want to get to, just in our discussion of like what goes into coordinating a sex scene, is the idea that you definitely need to assign some kind of like, and I think this goes for both romance and erotica. It's not, you know, just one. I think, and it's not like you need to do this, but I feel like sex scenes hit harder. There's more tension just because there's added dramatic tension, and that can make the scene itself better when you have something tying into the plot or tying into character growth or tying into an emotional arc. And Absolutely. So the idea is that the sex scene itself accomplishes something. And like the easiest example I can think of is in pretty much every Regency romance, if the two characters decide they're going to have P&V sex, it means this is the point of no return. You have to get married to me. You can't say no then, because otherwise you'll be ruined by society standards. And so it's kind of this, you know, it is like symbolically crossing a threshold.
I'm trying to think of an example in like contemporary.
It is harder in contemporary, I think, because there isn't like that. That's such an easy example because it gets used so often.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like the ones that like I can think of, like, oh yeah, that's definitely an example of like the sex lining up with the plot or the character development. It's been so long since I've read them. I'm like, God, I'm gonna step on my toes. You know what I mean? Like I'm thinking of the Kiss Quotient.
Okay.
When they finally have P&B, and the to me the story wasn't so much propelled by that moment as much as like the character's relationship and then also the heroine's personal growth in that moment, right?
Okay.
Because at that point she hadn't had what, except for, I wish I could remember her name, but I can only ever remember Michael's name, and it makes me feel really terrible that I don't remember her name. But without Michael, she hadn't had positive like experiences with men, particularly with intimacy. He just did such a great job of like listening and paying attention to her and her responses and, you know, all of those things. And so when it came time for them to actually, you know, have the sex, he knew how to make sure she felt comfortable and was like able to be present and enjoying the whole process. And so it was like a moment of like sexual awakening for her, but also like a moment that was still very shared between the two of them. Yeah, it was just a really unifying moment for them as a couple. And so to me, that was like a really good example of furthering the plot.
There's plenty of books where it doesn't further the plot per se,
Absolutely.
But it furthers like the emotional, and like it doesn't need to be the first time they've had sex, you know. Absolutely. Maybe it's like they're trying something new, or maybe this is the goodbye sex they think this is their final time, you know. Maybe, you know, like as long as it accomplishes something
that the other scenes haven't done before. Yeah.
Yes.
I had another one in my head.
Okay.
It's gone now. I think it was Red, White, and Royal Blue. No, it's just so gone. I love that book though. If anyone hasn't read that book, stop doing what you're doing and read that book. But let this podcast play through just to help us out.
Yeah. I don't know. You gotta download this twice.
Exactly. Reader or listener, the one, download this twice for us, please.
And like, I feel like we should have prefaced the beginning of this episode with this, but like, you know, because because we're both romance writers, I feel like in just a lot of genres that tend to dunk on romance, they just, and then you read these sex scenes that are just horrifying, or like, and it's like the author's still trying to make it sexy, but then like, it's just, it's not. And the amount of like thinking that goes into writing a sex scene is 5 times over all the rest of your other scenes.
Yes. Yes. And then also they take up so much more space than the other scenes do too. Because again, you have to accomplish so much more. They are also scenes that will live in your readers' minds after closing the book as well. So like in my anthology piece, I was opening the box because I had bought some copies. Jude said she wanted to read them. I'm like, oh, wait. And Andrew's like, so when can she read it? I'm like, I mean,
never.
We'll have to see. Maybe I could do a retracted version where I like block out a third of it. He's like, a third of it? I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's only 12,000 words. Like, of course it's a third of it. Like, so yeah, it was pretty funny. Andrew doesn't read my writing, which is totally fine.
Oh no.
Yeah, no, I'm totally cool with it. Like,
see, what I do is I send the sex scene to my boyfriend and I go, all right, is it hot enough? Yay or nay?
Yeah, no, Andrew isn't, like, he only reads, like, nonfiction, like, based on, like, his, you know, interests. Like, there's a current affair or, like, stuff like that. And so he doesn't read fiction unless he's, like, reading a book to our kids. So it just wouldn't be, an experience that he would do for himself. Like, if I asked him to do it, I know he would. But, I mean, that's not why I want anyone to read me. Right? Like, I want someone
you don't want to force someone to do something that's, like, outside of their interests.
Absolutely. So it is so, like, not an issue for me that Andrew doesn't read it. And there are moments where, like, I will be like, hey, you want to hear how smart I am? And, like, I'll read him, like, a paragraph or something. But that's about it. Like, I also think that, you know, anyone listening to this that doesn't write romance, you know, obviously our point of view on sex scenes and stuff like that and what they do for our story is going to be different. But I do see, a lot of times I feel like when I read other genres, sex isn't in there for any sort of, like, actual enjoyment factor, right? It's in there as, like...
Sometimes it's a dramatic device, but, like...
Yeah, most of the time it's horror. Like, sort of thing.
Most of the time like it's to cause pain.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, as much as, like, I just really wish we didn't only have sex accepted and depicted because of, like, the violence it can cause a person.
Yeah.
Like, I just would really love to see our society stop weaponizing it.
Yeah.
I'm all about romance and romance readers and everyone embracing that, like, we can all have, like, a healthy sexual experience. And it's okay to read them. And it's okay to write them. And all these things, even if it is really hard.
It's really hard.
It's really hard. And, like, the thing is like I've said, like, I would totally do something very different if I didn't think it was important. Not only, you know, because, like, as a reader, I'm okay with euphemistic, but I prefer not closed doors. But I do think that it's important to show, like, happy sexual relationships because we have so much depiction of, like, sexual violence and, you know, shared experience and stuff like that. This one's gonna get a TW, isn't it?
I don't know. We have to. You're the one uploading them, right?
Am I uploading them?
Yeah.
Oh, I can do that. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
We decide who does what on air.
It's because we're professionals, god damn it. You know, we don't want it to be shrouded in mystery, you know? Why would we do that? We want you to see the workings in the back.
Yeah. In fact, I put in together a little remix of every time we say and you understand me, right?
Does that make sense? Is mine.
Yes. You have no idea how many times I've taken out you saying, does that make sense? And they go,
Thank you. I appreciate it every time. If you want to, like, send me a message every time, like, I got another one. I will say thank you every time.
You would block me. You would say, oh my god, stop.
Well, I mean, It just means that, like, you deserve a thank you if it's that often. Which I have to assume it is. Does that make sense? That's hilarious. I'm a mess.
I mean, the first episode that I was editing, I was like, oh my god, I say like so goddamn much. This bitch doesn't know how to talk.
Dude. Oh, dude is another one you're going to hear a lot from me.
You do say dude a lot. I do cut some of them out.
Please do. Yes.
It's more just because I cut out all the pauses and I cut out like as many as I can get. Mm-hmm. But that's most of it. Sometimes your computer makes a weird noise and I have to take that out.
Is that when my alarm was going off?
No, it was like a different thing. It sounded like an error or like one of the... Do you have a Mac? No. It sounded like a Mac pop-up.
I feel like all of the last like 5 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes are going to be cut. It's because it's just us talking about.
No. We need the time for the episode. So here's how to make a podcast and write a sex scene. One of them's really condensed though, and it's the podcast thing.
Yeah, absolutely. We can't tell you all of our secrets. Oh my gosh. Any other notes you want to talk about for the sex scenes? We might have to redo this episode.
Why?
Do you not feel that way?
I feel like we've got through with minimal tangenting.
Maybe that's it. Maybe I just have been so on task that I'm like, this doesn't feel right.
We haven't been like wandering off our beaten path enough.
Apparently we're very interested in our topic.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I can think of, and it's like not really a necessary thing, but it's just kind of a thing that I personally run into every single time I write a sex scene, which is what goddamn words do I use to describe things?
Oh my gosh.
Like, you don't like sucker.
Oh,
you know
no,
what?
I don't like sucker.
Someone tweeted it at me the other day. They're like,
that is so funny.
And I was like, I'm going to tag Marty. I'm not going to tag Marty. I'm going to show some self-restraint.
No, you should have tagged me. Always tag
someone
me.
liked it.
They liked it?
Oh, I'll have to find it.
I like how I was
Twitter.
shocked there. Did you hear me? They liked it?
Such shock. I definitely retweeted it.
Word.
Okay, it was Kate Hawthorne. And she said, "This was a delight. We all deserve a hero with a sucker dick. Am I right?" And I was like, yes! Thank you! Validation.
Well, and like, the thing is like, in concept, that's not my problem. I don't like the word.
We just gotta rename it.
Vacuum is not better.
Leech mouth dick.
Ugh. Okay,
Even worse.
No. That's so bad. Because leeches have teeth.
Ooh, yeah. Okay, the worm-faced dick.
Oh.
It can get 1,000,000 times worse. But like, so yeah, I find like what I do is I keep running into sex scenes and I'm like, I don't know what I want to call... I don't want to say pussy in a Regency novel.
No.
There's only so many times I feel like I can put cunt on the page. Like, it's a good word. It's very good.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
It does pack a little bit of a punch.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So I feel like I have to use it semi-sparingly because I really only want to use it where it's going to make the most impact.
See, I kind of have the opposite perspective on it of like...
Oh, okay.
Because there's people that are still shocked by it. And so I'm like, use it. Familiarize yourself with it. Like, let me just keep on telling you this word over and over and just like hammer it into you being normal with it. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
And not that that's like necessarily my point, but like my issue is like, again, society and how like, cunt has been weaponized against women so aggressively. And so it's my favorite word for the vagina, vulva area, whatever. I have thoughts. Should I just be silent while I gather them so it's easier for you to delete this?
Whatever you want.
Okay. I love the word cunt because like it's not soft. So much of like talking about a woman and her body is soft and pussy and like all this. Like, it's just like very soft language. But like cunt like knocks down a fucking door. Like she just kicked that motherfucker in and she's here now. You know what I mean? Like, get used to this word. Let's all just embrace this beautiful word that is cunt. And that's so I don't necessarily try to be too gentle about like how I use it and when I use it. It's just like it's like any other word where like I don't want it to like repeat 3 times in the same paragraph, but like I'm okay with using it. I would rather use it than try to work around it.
3 times in a row, and then I'll be like, that's no good. I can't keep doing this.
I run into more issues with like hand, right? Because you're talking about what hands do.
Yeah.
And then like mouth and lips.
Mouth I empathize with. Hand, I just say hand. Maybe I'll use finger or knuckle if I have to.
Oh god, fingers too. I hate using a digit. But like sometimes you need to throw in a digit there because you've used fingers too much.
Used a digit.
Everybody just keeps moving their pieces.
First finger, second finger, pinky finger,
thumb.
Oh no, I was making a very specific gesture.
I'm an idiot.
I don't know what you're gonna do with that thumb.
It's a very dexterous person.
Oh. Got the double jointed. God, being double jointed was like all the rage in high school.
Yeah, at mine too. But like now there's no way for this not to be like a weird thing to say.
Abort topic.
Andrew's double jointed.
Oh.
And it's a sign of like, messy joints. Like it's not good for your joints to like be double jointed.
Oh.
Yeah. So like I said, there was no
idea.
way for it not to be a weird thing to say in the moment.
Okay. Hey babe, I'm double jointed.
Well, I meant in this moment. Andrew didn't just come out and tell me. I suppose I saw examples. But yeah, we were talking about like double jointed being dirty. And I'm like, well, my husband. I love that like he doesn't know I talk about him here.
Oh no.
No, I mean he never anticipates that I talk about him as much as I do. So yeah. I'm really looking forward to him having people tell him that I mentioned him.
You don't think he's gonna listen?
I mean, he might. If he listens to anything, he'll listen to this and he'll text me and be like, of course I listen.
And I read.
I
have reviewed your stuff anonymously on Goodreads. God, actually, Austin did that on Amazon the other day.
That's hilarious.
He wrote a review for Love Laugh Lich on Amazon, and he said, my girlfriend really enjoyed this book. And I'm like, I'm gonna...
That is so funny. Oh, Austin, you clever.
Don't. He'll think he's too cute. Alright, we should sign off. I hope, listener, you feel more comfortable in both your ability to edit a podcast and write a sex scene.
Indeed.
But not edit a sex scene.
Please embrace the word cunt. She came in through the door without using a handle. Just busted that shit right in.
But do not use the word digit. It's bad.
And sucker, okay?
And sucker. Sucker is... The jury's still out on that.
I mean... We're still trying to find a better word, but...
As soon as you have a substitute, I will put it in. I will shove it in. On that note, good night, listener.
Good night, listener.